Doing live. We are live now on Facebook. And
okay.
Wait, let me record.
Ombethe. Awu bangena abakhulu namhlanje. Mkhulu Ombethe. Siyakhuleka. Sokoza.
We may begin now.
Simbingelele ngena namhlanje wonke umuntu. Okay, sanibonani. Nasingababoni siyanibona. Siyavusela. Siyabingelela sithi ndosheni, sithi ukuthula makube nani. Sithi salam, salemna. Sithi camagwini. Siyakhuleka kubo bonke abaphezulu, abangaphezulu, nabangaphansi. We give thanks for life. We give thanks for this opportunity. We give thanks for this opportunity to present these conversations, which are conversations between ourselves, especially as African people. And as we always say, we can't be, everyone is welcome. But these are conversations that we cherish most as African people, since a lot of the knowledge and the information we are sharing here is information that has been taken away from the general public for many, many years. So without speaking too much before we get into everything, I've been requested by the powers that be among us. Uguti, let's first begin with our usual breathing meditation so that we can ground ourselves, present ourselves to Amadlozi, Amatongo, our creators first, and ask for the permission from our great divine ancestors, our mothers and fathers, great grandmothers, great grandfathers. So we usually just ask for ukuthi kube khona ukuthula, whether you are sitting, whether you are standing, whether you are walking, just take upon yourself an attitude of peace, compose yourself, and we will take a few breaths and a few affirmations, and then we will read the Healer's Pledge and begin our conversation. And everyone is welcome to speak, and everyone is welcome to raise their hand. As we know in the Zoom protocols, raise your hand before you speak. We note you and then make some notes. On the side, you are free to chat on the chat. So, our Divine Father, Divine Mother, Makhosi amakhulu, makhosikazi, nani makhosazana, siyanamukela. Let's take one deep breath in. Hold it. And release it through your mouth. Another deep breath in. Ubambe. Allow the grounding of our great sages, our ancestors, to be among us today. We call upon all the great ones, all the forgotten ones and the remembered ones to be with us. We breathe out. We breathe in and ask for divine attention, divine presence. We ask for ukuhlakanipha nesizotha nobumnene nomusa amathongo. Breathe out. As we breathe again for the last time, deep breath to relax our shoulders. Think of the breath, the the fire, the ta, the earth, the sa, the quintessence, the as, the air, and the nu, which is the water. Breathe out. We ask all these elements of fire, earth, quintessence, air and water to be among us and to give us grace as we enter into this conversation, and let this conversation be blessed by all the great ancestors, Asar, Set, Heru'ur, Auset, Neptet, Ra, Ramasedi. Can you greet the people, my sister that I am working with today, Nkosi, before we read the pledge?
Greetings, everybody. Nkosi, intombi yakwaDlamini, intombi yaselangeni, ngithi camagwini, nginibingelela ngokuthula nomoya, ngithi sanibonani.
May these words that we are about to speak be imbued with the power and the reception that they deserve, and let everyone be free to speak their mind, whether they have questions, whether they have comments. Let us open up our hearts and minds so that we can do this. And together we're going to read the Healer's Pledge. I recite it, and then everyone will say after me. You can unmute your mic, as we believe that the words that we have composed here for the Healer's Pledge are for all of us. They're not for Ikhambi only, but they're for every person that believes that nature has all the powers that we need, and the words that we utter have power. So the Healer's Pledge goes like this, which is our code of conduct for the group. So we say, Singabelaphi, we are healers. Repeat after me.
Singabelaphi,
we are healers.
We owe our gifts to nature, our ancestors, and our creators.
We owe our gift to nature, our ancestors, and our creator.
Excuse me. We live by the principles of Ma'at, Unu, Ubuntu.
We live by the principles of Ma'at, Unu, Ubuntu.
We will approach each other with respect, honesty, and compassion.
We will approach each other with respect, honesty, and compassion.
We will offer our advice, recommendations, and ideas with trust.
We will offer our advice, recommendations, and ideas with trust.
We will neither insult, dishonor, nor abuse one another.
We will neither insult, abuse,
honor,
nor
abuse one another.
We will share, practice, promote, and raise awareness about natural healing.
We will share,
practice, promote, and raise awareness about our natural healing.
Healthy lifestyles and well-being.
Healthy lifestyles and well-being.
We will refrain from posting negative information.
We will refrain from posting negative information.
We will refrain from posting irrelevant information and falsehood.
We will refrain from posting
irrelevant information and
falsehoods.
Singabelaphi, we are healers.
Singabelaphi, we are healers.
Our gifts are a gift to humanity and nature.
Our gift are a gift to humanity and nature.
We will give back to nature what it has abundantly given us.
We will give back
to nature what it has abundantly given to us.
So before we even begin launch into the today's discussion, I want us to focus a little bit on the last line of our Healer's Pledge. When we say we will give back to nature, which is we sometimes say she, but we use the word it. We will give back to nature what it has abundantly given us. I just need to share something that I experienced this week. When someone was saying, you cannot give anything to God. God has created everything. The creator has created everything. What can you give to God as a gift or as an offering? What is it that you believe that you can give back? Now, I know that for many of us, when you say nature, nature is nature. It's a creation of God. It's a creature. But for someone else, for everybody else, you will find that God is separate. Or I mean, God is separate from nature. But for some people, God is within nature. How do you give back to nature? It's a question that I'm going to raise. And as time goes by, also, we would like to maybe after the whole conversation about Auset, I would like us to delve on your ideas of what really can we give back to nature. Since we are growing up with Western information and Western epistemology and ontology, a worldview which is Western, and which, of course, what the West is also influenced by the East and the South. We've gotten used to saying Mother Nature. But when we got into the Kemetic schools of thought and Kushite, Nubian, or Napata, and all these Afrocentric schools of thought, we began to see images of nature as a father, whether it is Geb or whether it is Osar with seeds sprouting from his body. And we began to see the heavens as a mother. So the whole notion of Mother Earth begins to take on maybe another shape. We look at nature as not just Mother Earth, but we also look at nature as a father and also as a mother, depending on where you're coming from. So I would like us to explore that notion of what is it that we believe we can give to nature. But on a level, Nkosi will also explain from the roots of Ikhambi. On a generic level, when we, as Ikhambi, composed the Healer's Pledge, we were talking about the levels of pollution that humanity has given to nature. And we're also talking about our own responsibilities as healers, also especially our healers, who are called traditional healers, who will go to the mountains and leave pieces of paper. If they were eating there, staying for 7 days or whatever, they will leave amakhandlela there, or leave candles by the river, or leave articles, things that are non-organic, and they will leave them at the riverside or at the mountainside. So we were saying we need to change that narrative. Whatever we are saying, we are presenting to nature on a spiritual level. We can't also at the same time give to nature what she has not given us. If we are giving to nature, we must give back to nature what is natural, so that it can regenerate, so that nature doesn't choke on our misdemeanors, doesn't choke on our, so that nature is not polluted, basically, in a nutshell. So maybe, Nkosi, you want to add a little bit on that before we continue, about the whole thing of giving back to nature and how we as Ikhambi compose that.
You know, I think one of the when we included that line there, it was based on what we were observing. You know, as healers, we have to go to the river. We have to do the rituals that we do at the river, and but what we forgot at some stage, I don't know whether when the information was passed on in terms of us doing the rituals, is that in as much as we go to the rivers to do rituals, we also need to go back to the river and replenish and remove all the all the dirt that gathers there. In an ideal situation, like a river is supposed to clean itself and get rid of all the stuff, but and all this same applies with the oceans and you know, but then the stuff that you find that the river is not able to clean on its own, it's stuff that is not stuff that grows naturally. It's man-made stuff. This would be your plastics, and this would be the wax that grows on the not wax that grows. Ooh. Would be the wax from the candles that we light, and all this other stuff that we leave at the riverside. And we were saying that we need to start practicing responsible healing, in a sense that we also take into account those elements. And in the same breath, it was not just about the pollution as well, but we also spoke about ethical harvesting. You can't just go to the mountain or Iftan and just extract a plant as if it belongs to you. Like, it's not yours. So therefore you need to first ask for permission. And in us asking for permission, you can't take more than what you need. And if let's say what you have taken is more than what you need to take it back. I think it was around the time when we were still reading Rosemary's book, where we were talking about rituals as well, that used to be performed in Kemet. And one of the rituals was the reversion ceremony. And in terms of the reversion ceremony, is that once you've made your offering, you need to redistribute it to the people that have come for that ceremony, and whatever it is that is left, you need to take it back to nature. That which can be taken back to nature, you need to take it back to nature, and so that nature is able to replenish itself. This would be stuff like your seeds that are left over from the fruits that were eaten from the ceremony, or the seeds from the vegetables, or amakasi, so that it becomes a fertilizer for the soil, so that the next time when we plant, or the next time when we need, there is actually stuff that we can actually take. Like, if we keep taking, eventually there won't be anything. Like, this is how we have issues like ikatazo being an endangered species. A lot of the plants, the healing plants that we have, are now endangered species, and our children will not benefit from these healing herbs, because we have not been ethical in our harvesting, and we have not been ethical in our healing practices as well. Yeah. It's a lot.
So that's what it is. We really believe that the responsibility we cannot talk about saving nature or even conservation per se, but we can really definitely speak about us being the custodians of the natural habitats that we are around. And I think also during the same conversation, we're talking about access. Remember, Gogo, we were talking about issues of access to nature. I think we even asked this question when we had Umkulu Ubaba Uzamalek speaking. I think it was a question we asked towards the last part of his interview, when we were speaking about how do we deal with issues of access? We do not, a lot of us, a lot of places that we should access for free, some of them have become privatized. A lot of the places, like some of us, we have a dream. A dream tells us, hamba endaweni ethize, uyoka impande ethize, uyoka amaxolo athize, uyoka amahlamvu athize, or hamba endaweni ethize, uyothatha itshe elithize, or noma hamba endaweni ethize, uyoka amanzi athize, uwaxube nani. But some of those places have become privatized. So that privatization, to me, is also a form of pollution, whereby something that is naturally should be belonging to the nation or to the people has become someone's property. So we cannot access it. If you remember, we had that conversation too about how do we deal with issues of access. And then there was a counter argument to say sometimes certain places are closed off and they become natural reserves because of that abuse that Nkosi has just mentioned, over harvesting. You harvest, but we don't plant. Some say, but how can we plant? We don't have land. If I, for example, if I go a lot of places in the rural areas, KwaZulu, I'm from KwaZulu. I'm from a location Lagwamashu, but I used to visit a lot in different parts of KZN. And you will find that a lot of people have a lot of land. I'm not saying that black people have land in general. I'm just saying there's a whole lot of African people who have access to land, either they're planting in it or it's just there. Sometimes we live amongst forests which are not privatized. Either we're harvesting for wood, or we're harvesting for immunity, or we're harvesting for whatever resources that we need. But we live in a world whereby people have also tended to again, take things that are supposed to be natural habitats and make them their own. How do we then give back to nature when nature, we don't have free access to nature? Okay, I said that is a question for last. People have gathered here for Auset. People have gathered here for the conversation about the Divine Mother. So, Gogo, you said so let's have these questions that you may have, and then I will maybe do a quick presentation, as I've already said, a 10-minute presentation, and then we will have questions, different questions at different intervals. We won't have question time A order. We'll have questions and comments as the day progresses. So what would be your first question or comment about Auset season as it's going, as we are in the middle of it?
You know, as we were discussed, okay, first of all, we need to acknowledge Butia this week, like Nomkubulane is doing the most, guys. Can we first acknowledge that?
Yes.
Before we even proceed, Umama Nomkubulane has been doing like the most with the rain. You know, she's showing us her power, she's showing off. Butia, I am still here, and my presence must still be felt. And I've got a feeling that it's going to rain up until the end of the season of Auset. But anyway, now that we've taken care of that, Mkulu, we last week we spoke about a lot. Not last week. On the previous session we spoke a lot about Auset. You know, and there were certain aspects that we didn't speak about in terms of Auset, particularly those of the role of the feminine energy in terms of Upahla, and how that role has changed so much to the level that in some cultures it is deemed that Upahla is not something that should be done by women. And yet at the same time, as we progress in terms of our learnings, we learn that during this time, we as a people, during this time, we rely on the feminine energy for Umpahlo, to lead Umpahlo, you know, during this time. Also, there are certain rituals that can only be performed by women, but due to whatever it is that is currently going on, that role of the feminine energy has been diminished. And the links between, because Auset is like the Divine Mother, what would be, I say this in inverted commas, you know, the Immaculate Conception, and what that actually means for us, you know, as well. And her relation, the duality as well in Osa being her husband, because right now Osa reigns in the northern hemisphere, and right now, and in the southern hemisphere, Auset is reigning. There's quite a lot, you know, that we haven't touched on. I'm not sure which one you want to take a bite.
And like you, it's a lot. It's a lot. As much as we did speak on a lot, we spoke about the Divine Motherhood in the beginning. In our last session, we spoke a lot about more issues of the Divine Mother, birth issues, the moon. We spoke about the star, Sirius, and the influences, whether it has influences on human beings, or whether the moon, how much influence does it have? Mkulu Zamalek also mentioned, we mentioned some things. We're going to raise it up again, maybe. Issues of the moon diverts the light from the sun, diverts or dilutes. One of those words. But we were speaking about
pardon, sir. It distorts and omit. Yeah, distortion and omission. Yes.
So we're talking about the influences of the celestial bodies and Auset ungenapi in those issues of the influence of heavenly bodies, the influence of the stars, and the influence of the star Auset specifically abizwa ngaso, which is Sopdet, I think, or Sotis in Greece. I am not saying in Sintu languages. What did we equate that star with? It's not Sirius, because Sirius is Osa. Usopdet is Ikwezi or what? If you please remind me, I've forgotten the actual proper star in our African languages, the Southern African languages. But in ancient Kemet, they call the star Sobdet, which appears at a particular, is it the winter equinox, something like that? Yeah, but we will get into it a little bit.
Sobdet is the star that appears in the spring equinox. It's the same
in
star
the spring equinox in the southern hemisphere.
Yeah, in the southern hemisphere, it's a Sirius star.
But is that not the one Osar?
No, it's a Sirius star.
The dog star is the same as the dog star, what they call the dog star.
It's just a dog star. There's a mystery behind why it's called a dog star and why it's the feminine solstice.
All right. You see, these are the details that we need to iron out properly, because as much as we know that Auset, Osar have a relationship, there is that relationship, both celestial and mythical, that we know. Some would say even historical. I would like us to get into that. I think I have some write-up, some research that I did regarding Sirius and Sobdet. What kind of relationship? Are they the same? Are they different? Which one? Nkosi mentioned something very important. The one is appearing in the northern hemisphere now. One is appearing in the southern hemisphere now. One is more visible, I would say, in the southern hemisphere now. But what influence does it have on us? We are very much keen on ensuring that the things we speak about are not bombastic. They are not beyond people's reach. As much as we don't want to dilute information, but at the same time, we want to make sure that that we are speaking about are useful for our daily lives, whether it's our prayer life, our spiritual life, or whether it is our medicinal life, because we are Ikhambi, natural healing. We want to talk about the herbs. We want to talk about the healing, psychological healing, and the influence of nature on you and your influence on nature, and how we can make sure that relationship is in harmony. That is our main goal. Not to confuse people with lots of things, but we like to get our information as accurate as possible. That's why we touch on various sources to get our information. Let me just start like this. Let me just start like this. I'll start again from this book, The Cosmic Resonance. Kuthiwa lana, the greatest of the Neteru, or the divine natural powers, the powers that be in the natural world. The greatest of the Neteru, leader of the powers that govern terrestrial life and come to its aid. Auset has been regarded for millennia as the source of divine intervention and magical processes. In the Northern Hemisphere, Libra, the season of Libra highlights those powers, and her companion divinities who bring forth new life, restore lost vitality, and ensure divine protection. She's the source of hope when all appears to be lost, and her intercession can reverse the most dire circumstances. Auset always answers an appeal, and invoking her attention should be done with certainty and sincerity. She is the patroness of the priesthood, as her fidelity and service to the slain God is the model of attentiveness and spiritual devotion. All of us know that who are here, we will know the story of Osar and Auset and how she restores the vitality of that murdered divinity. And then he rises again to rule from the underworld, and his son, their son, rules in the world above. Now, Lana, let's be very clear. When we are speaking about Auset, sikhuluma ngani? Nkosi just mentioned ukuthi hey nangu nomkhubulwane is showing off these days. We attributed the powers of water, the powers of rain, both the waters above and the waters from below, and the waters from within a woman's womb when she is carrying a child, and even the menses, what they call we call menstrual blood. There is a ritual that is related to Auset, which has to do with menstrual blood, and that has a lot to do with the ritual that uses something called the Tet, the knot of Isis, something called the knot of Isis, which is related to the ovaries, which is related to a magical ritual, which connects the user to Auset, and the user, most of the time, it would be the woman. But Auset is not just for women. They say she is also the patron of the priesthood, the whole Abba priest. So the point here I'm trying to bring Auset back to us as Southern Africans. I'm thinking most people on the call are Southern Africans. Our teachers relate unomkhubulwane to Auset. Unomkhubulwane is related to those who are initiates. They will speak to her. They speak of her as ugogo wasemanzini, usezizibeni, or in the lakes. She's in the rivers, and some will say also she's in the ocean. That, and I even mentioned last time, the initiated may have a deeper kind of information about what is it about water and Auset that we should know about as ordinary people. Some of us are ordinary healers. We heal in different ways, but some of us batwasile, and they've gone through all those rituals. What is it that when we see the signs of Auset kunomkhubulwane, or when we see the signs of Auset that we learn about or read about, or when we see images of Auset being the intermediary between abaphilayo, between the living and the unborn, and also between the living and the ones who have transitioned into the realm of the realm of the underground, so-called the dead. What is it that what are we supposed to remember? What are we supposed to keep in our spirit and keep in our mind about Auset, so that we do not get surprised when we see certain events like floods, or when we see death by different kinds of water-based incidences that seem to shock people, and it seem to be uncanny. You know, people will talk about, no, it's climate change, it's the chaos caused by the pollution. You know, there's many various aspects. But some people, like, for example, my last point is this for now. Some people in KZN, for example, where the floods have been most effective, and we say condolences to those who lost their lives. Some friends and family also lost their lives in this inundation, or in non-inundation, in this flooding. What I am asking is now is, what are we being reminded to do? What are we reminded to be? And how are we supposed to relate with the Divine Mother when the Divine Mother shows anger, or shows her? We were speaking about her beautiful side. I think Zamalek even said there's no negative side. It's all positive. So my question is now, what are we, when we see the positive side of Nomkhubulwane, and when we see the negative side of Nomkhubulwane, how are we supposed to, what are we supposed to learn, right? Because we can read. I note the hands. I will take up your. I will note you now. I note the hands. We spoke about a lot of positive things about Nomkhubulwane. We spoke about a lot of positive things about Ukoko, about issues of birth and her as the intermediary for the spirit. Some in the Auset society, they speak about her as someone who helps, the divinity that helps in meditation, when you want to get into a state of trance so that you can commune properly with nature and with your divine self, with your higher self. Auset is the one that helps you there. We all know she used the magic to resurrect Osar. So right now, today, how are we supposed to approach Auset? Let me note the hands. I'll start with Ikhambi, and then I'll go with Zamalek. Nkosi, let me start with you, and then I'll go with Baba Zamalek, whatever he needs to say. Can turn on your mic.
No, I actually understand what you're trying to say, but I think Umkhulu Zamalek tried to steer us away from the word negative, because
yes.
Just forgive me, I choked on something a bit earlier on. Forgive my voice. So I think what you're talking about the umama, in as much as she's nurturing, but she also has the discipline side of her. la azothi azokushaya khona ngoswazi oluncane nje, just to bring you back in line. And it's true when Umkhulu Zamalek or Brother Zamalek tries to bring us back and say it's negative. It's not really negative, you know. It depends on which side of the coin you decide to look at it from, because when umama act disciplina, it's not really negative. She's bringing you back in line towards your own purpose, you know, or towards your own, towards being in line with the rules of, or towards with what's the divine force that you were meant to align yourself with, for lack of a better word. Umkhulu Zamalek can expand on that.
Okay, Zamalek.
Ndoshin. My own is to explain that the system of Mama Isis, it's based on a system of a womanhood. What me as a man, I cannot teach in full aspects of it, but give glimpse into it, that it has its own form of how a mother or a daughter is taught how to be a daughter at the young age. That is why it's called a child going in flanga. So there's these talks they talk there that they are given similarity of nurturing and caring for everything around them, a teaching of some sort that always remind them of their divinity. Similarly applied to in the Taogana society, you get a female initiation only that happens, and then you get that even happening in Nigeria. You can find it in the Oroshua principles where only they initiate, and when they talk about the healers, when we go to Egyptology, Kemet, when we talk about the healer, we are talking about a woman. They are not talking about something that is far from a feminine nature, taking care, as Mama Nkosi said, when you are shambled by your mother, they shambled you out of caring, with a discipline, trying to instill discipline into you. So that discipline, we may abstract it from the chaos we see. That is why when these floods happen, it's because of the divine nature of the motherhood, in how it is separated from part, as we have spoken. Like when we go to our rituals as Africans, we do them in a Christian or we make women to stay behind. We put them on the pedestal of behind side, and we say they are less of value. And then it loses value. The system that was passed through generation to a woman has a higher ability because of a particular seasonal or star formation that influences the life that we're living. So it's why I will say it is positive, just we never saw the positivity of each and everything that happens. And last I explained that the things that are happening in South Africa, like these floods, are the little scale of what is happening. It will happen or take place in the Northern Hemisphere. Because we in the Southern Hemisphere, we still have these water rituals. We still have this feminine side of you where we see most people wear ibeshu, wear garments or wear amabai, like feminine people, like as if we still adore this mother. We still have these attributes of communicating, connecting, as Baba Credo Muta say, with the feminine side in order to be spiritual. When we have gone to the ritual of initiation, they're all feminine sides. They don't have a patriarchal, masculine form of existence. but they all have femininity. That is where it tells you that Isis, she's a patron of the priesthood. That patron, it becomes now that femininity of systems and rituals and rites that we practice that relate to Isis, that relate to the system of Isis, same as the jet, what we can call it, the knot in English. The knot, it is used in menstruation in the old times by the Tsar in Nubia. It was the phenomenon. They still hold, they have it in their museum. They use it as a menstrual, what you call it, for woman stuff. I'm not good with that woman well, but it's that mystery. They use it to preserve blood flow, and then it always helped them in particular seasonal form. So there was a ritual in why they must use that, and it has much to deal with the woman and their body within them. Because I'm not experiencing such a body, I wouldn't talk much about it.
No, noted.
Yeah, we
noted.
can. So that is why she's raising Osiris. Why she's raising Osiris? Because she gave birth to Heru. Osiris being the phallus, a man who erects, a man who's a masculine, hence why he needed to go and rule in the underworld. With his peace and loving, he's a lord of the Rastu, of the separated world. He's the rolling stone. So he's a man of, he's aggressive in all his tendencies. When you look at Osiris, when you study Osiris, you study an aggressive magician. And then when you look at the Oriana, the star, you can see he's a hunter. It gives you the attributes of an aggressive tendency, but in a divine aspect. Then we see him as a phallus that erected and gave and slept with this feminine power, and this feminine power gave birth to us, to this son. That is why Horus worked with Ra. He had to labor with Ra after all the fighting with his uncle. And then we need to remember that his uncle, he's a caretaker. He's someone who wants to inherit everything. These are tendencies and behaviors that humans have. So when we study Osas, or what we can say, Auset, when we study we see the feminine spiritual aspect that is sidelined by views that we have adhered to through media, through propaganda, through books that we read, because people grew up in different environments, and these environments influence their cultural behavior. So they are accustomed to assume that men must lead on front, rather than to give us a different aspect of how this woman became a power of the throne. That is why she has a throne in her head.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Mkulu. In fact, you touch on the issue exactly that I was going to get into. Zamalek has touched on the issue that we discussed as a Ikhambi. We're going to talk about the throne. I'm muted. We'd like to give it 10 to 15 minutes just talking about the issue of the throne.
Good. I was trying to admit someone.
Oh, okay. No, it's fine. I'm saying Zamalek touched on the excellent issue that we have already discussed before this week. Why does she have a throne on her head? We will discuss that very, very, very soon. I would like us to go again, touch on some of the things that you've raised. Issue of the ritual magic, the importance of it, and why is it associated with Auset and Nomkhubulwane. I mentioned that there are people who are initiated, and the ones who are initiated, they will know more about why is Nomkhubulwane so central. More than Umvelinqangi is important, but why is Nomkhubulwane so much more vital to the institution of becoming, or to the process of becoming a healer? we don't want to be too much theoretical about it. We want to like really look at why this divine mother and how did, through the process of colonization and all these negative, I would call it negative patriarchy, because I don't believe that patriarchy is bad in all its forms. But what is called negative or toxic patriarchy, how did that assist, and also Abrahamic religions and other religions, how did they contribute towards ukwehlisa umuntu wesimame? How did the Black woman specifically find herself in a position where she has to fight for her position, where instead of being acknowledged as a divine power, we know that in the Abraham noted, the hand is noted. We know that in the Abrahamic faiths and in other forms of patriarchal aggression, women are made to feel, women and girls are made to feel like second class or third class citizens, where and boys get all the glory. We have touched on this with Ikhambi. I want to touch on this before I forget it. I know the hands. Ikhambi, we have mentioned many times that Auset could be the only divinity. Lana Gutiwa, she's the greatest of the Neteru, leader of the powers that govern terrestrial life. But we have mentioned that all, correct Nkosi, in studying, in going through the cycles of the Kemetic calendar, or even the Dendera calendar, or what we call the African calendar, when we study all the matriarchs, from Ma'at to Sekhmet, who's the mother of healers, Siazu Sekhmet in a discipline, when we study all of them, Ma'at, Het-Heru, Neptet, and various others, Anunet is not in the calendar, but there's many divinities that are not even mentioned in some of these books that we read. We came to the conclusion that they are not only connected or interlinked, there is a possibility also that they are aspects of the one divine mother, the one who wears the throne on her head. There are many. We see, as even the system of the Orisha, we find many different Orishas. One is of water, one is of creativity, one is of this, one is of wealth. Similar in Kemet, similar even Gwantu in the southern regions. We find the word Nomhoi, we find the word Nomkubulwane, we find the word Ma. Maybe to the outsider, maybe is on correct if I'm wrong. To someone else, it may look like these are three different beings, right? If beings is the word that you would like to use, or principles. Yet at the same time, the more you study them, the more you look at their behavior and the more you look at their actions, they are all interlinked and they all seem to draw one's attention to their oneness. Either that oneness means that they are one being with different powers who exercises her different powers at different seasons, or they are actually, you cannot say they, you can say it is all Ma, which is all Auset, it is all Ma'at, it is all Anunet. We know Amen as the divine father, who's invisible, but only is visible as Amen Ra. But there's also Amentet. I think Amunet, if I'm not mistaken, it is they say it's the feminine aspect of Amen. We don't really see a lot of her appearances, but she is there amongst the whole big lots of pantheons of the different Kemetic gods. What I'm driving to is this. We must not confuse ourselves by thinking that we are worshiping. In fact, worship is a very strong word. We are worshiping many, many different gods, maybe 12 or maybe 14, 48, 1,000, whatever. That may cause confusion to someone who's maybe beginning in this walk, in this Kemetic science or Kemetic tradition. We must look at these principles and find these principles within ourselves. We know that even amongst ourselves as Amadon, as much as we are not women, there is part of our mothers within us. Back now, in conclusion, to the issue of the throne. The throne of Auset has been said that the throne which is empty. Some say it's the throne of Ra because Auset, Isis, was able to, she tricked the sun god, the solar power, Ra. I don't want to go into the mythology, but she tricked him, and then so that she can get all his divine names. Now, I was reading this morning a book called, I want to just look at it now. It's called Isis Magic, Cultivating a Relationship with the Goddess of 10,000 Names. Now, you look at these names, almost some of these names are the same names that Ra carries. Some of these attributes are the same attributes that Ra carries. Kutiwa in a particular date in history, who Auset took on, she knows the secret names of the creative source called Ra, the source of this solar system. She knows the names, so she was able to heal him from a scorpion bite or a snake bite. She healed him so that he can continue his creative work. But also it is said that she used magic, and some of that magic included her own names, the same aspects of her name, to heal Osar. Just in closing, let me just read this little part. There's an article I was reading. It says, why does Isis have wings? I just want to read that a bit, and then I'll take the question, the raised hand. We were talking about discipline, and Nkulu even used the word shambo. The Divine Mother will also discipline you or discipline us. Isis is fierce in protecting Osiris, and both sisters are fierce in their lamentations for the god. We know it's Lilo Skanam Kubulwan. The black kites cry, a shrill, plaintive screeching, makes a lot of noise. It may have sounded to the ancient Egyptians like wailing or lamenting women. It may have been that the ancients saw a correspondence between the kite, which is a bird, the kites scavenging for carrion, and Isis is scavenging for the scattered pieces of her husband, Osiris's body, in order to assemble them for renewal. Or perhaps in the cleverness of the black kite, the Egyptians saw a reflection of the cleverness of the goddess Isis as she tricked the enemy, Set, time and time again. On a magical level, because now we're talking about the goddess who's also called Great of Magic, the mother of magic even. On a magical level, Isis's wings are the means by which she fans renewed life into Osiris. They are the protection spread out over the deceased in the tomb. Their shadow is our shelter in this life and the next. For human beings, wings have always exerted a strong fascination and engendered intense longing. We are in awe of the ability of winged creatures to fly under their own power. Even today, when flight is available through mechanical means, many people still have the flying dream. We dream of flying. We'll talk about that. In the dream, we fly on our own, our arms held out to our sides like huge wings, soaring like great wild birds. Yet beyond physical flight, wings also commonly symbolize spiritual flight, very important part, or ascent to the heavens. And since feelings of rising, floating, or flying upwards can accompany spiritual experience, it is quite natural for cultures throughout the world to conceive of spirit beings, from angels to fairies, as winged. In Egypt, a very ancient conception of the cosmos envisioned the heavens as the enormous wings of the great falcon god Heru. These heavenly wings attached to the disk of the sun, where a common Egyptian protective motif. Siyabona in the Bantu traditions, where a great king will always wear upapolude. For example, Dlaminis are called Osibalukulu, right? Usibalukulu. You see also various traditions in Africa. They wear wings, even in Ethiopia, various cultures in various peoples of Ethiopia, they wear ostrich wings, ostrich feathers. We see various sangomas, maybe the sangomas amongst us, Babo Oblakomkulu Ombete, can explain to us the importance of wings. Why are wings so important? You find some people wearing different, even now, Maseko is Tagazalo said, Tituas Nabantwana Bempangele, Ababizanayo, Besabel, Impangele, Ebiza Ingonya. You know, those are the clan names. You know, Impangele is a fowl, a kidney fowl, you know. So, excuse me if I'm maybe mixing things. It sounds like I'm mixing things. I'm just saying that Auset has so many different powers, and all these different powers, they seem to be manifested in all the other deities and all the other Netero. Ngicela ukuthatha a question from Ikhambi or a comment from Ikhambi, and then maybe there's other comments from the group and maybe from Facebook. Tini Nkosi.
You can continue asking questions from the others people. But also, okay. I just wanted, it was a comment, something that I just thought of now as you were actually talking, that we once had the discussion about the different forms in terms of the deities, and we often use this name God, and English is sometimes very limiting in terms of how we decide to use certain words, because it doesn't really, the word God doesn't really define or is not really appropriate for the divine energies that we speak of. And I don't know. I think almost at some point we need to make a decision and stick to it in terms of whether
we will use the word God or not use the word God.
Yes, we need to make a decision and stick to it, because we have said that the word God doesn't really define the divine energies. Yes, the Netarians. So we need to make a decision and stick to it, and it's either we continue using it or we don't continue using it.
I would say to that aspect, before I ask, I'd really like other people to speak soon, besides the ones that have spoken now. Others will speak later. Can I ask Mkhulu Ombete, what is your knowledge of Auset and some of the things that we have mentioned about, or even Nomkubulwane if you want to describe? Mkhulu, you can unmute the mic if you're there.
We lost him.
He lost or he's gone. Okay.
Yeah.
Other people, can we hear some female voices? Can we hear some sisters? Any comments, any questions, anything that you would like to be highlighted for us to highlight? Just simply unmute your mic or hold your hand up so that we speak. Does any sister have anything to say? Any koko, any woman? No questions. It's all going according to your expectation.
And if I has a mic unmuted, I'm not sure if she has something to say.
Okay. Mo, if the sisters are not speaking yet, Moji, do you have anything to say, to add to our discussion of the Divine Mother? Moji.
Togoza Nkosi, yes, I always do.
Feel free, my brother.
Mkhulu, I just want to touch slightly on Ama Magics, Waga Mama.
Yeah.
And I want to bring it more home. Like you said, I like the comment you made earlier, Yuguti. Let us not be bombastic about things. Let us talk about things that we can see readily, I was looking at a scenario during the week about in a family where, times are tough now. It's the COVID and people have lost jobs, and there was this discussion around the 350, and the 350 is this program that the president has started now, where the disadvantaged, the marginalized now can register and get 350 per month, and a lot of people say, yes, what does a person do with 350 today? I mean, it's a very relevant question and concern. I want to take it to the days when I was growing up as a person. Umama has Ama Magics, and we need to recognize them. There are things, and focusing on the 350, if you take 2,000 rand when I'm money, give it to Ubaba, Ekaya. Ask him to go to the store and get some basics for Laikai. Probably 400 in the 1,000 rand would go to Ikhambi inyama and maybe something to drink for himself or others. Other fathers will do better than other fathers. But take the very same 1,000 rands, give it to Umama. Umama have got a capability to make it as long as it needs to last. Did you hear that?
Yes.
They have got armor magics to make the little that there is to last for as long as it needs to last. And this is a capability that you don't go training for or get via some schooling. It is something that you are brought with, like on earth. We, as a human race, needs to recognize some very basic aspects of the magic that lies in our mothers. There is so much that our families can, benefit if we give them back the power that they are divinely ordained with. Our homes will stand strong if we go back to recognizing the mothers for the queens and the magical beings that they are. And that's the very little I wanted to touch on just in today's thing, because there's many of us, and I believe that many of us have got a lot of things to say. That is the part of magic that I wanted to share with the group today.
That's an amazing thing to say. I would like to testify on that one and say, umama, ugogo, even intombazane ekhaya.
Yes.
On the issue of intombazane ekhaya, I think Zamalek mentioned issues about the rites of passage, the things that, you mentioned Nkosi omhlanga. And beyond Nkosi omhlanga, there are eminye imkosi. There are other rituals that are done ukuthomba for as a woman, as a young lady, as a young woman grows. From very early age all the way up to her being a wife, and even during the time when she is a wife, or even, I'd like to actually very specifically mention this. Not every woman in Ndanguni aspect of looking at a woman is necessarily worth her name just because she's a wife. You see, some women are grown, even Namagama, Tigiza, and other names of women who are unmarried, yet they are of significant, how can I say, power in the community, in the society, whether they are married or unmarried, So it's important also for us not to have that bias to think that every woman who deserves praise must be married. It's a different question. We'll speak about it maybe during the rituals of Het Heru.
I love that,
A woman in her being, just a girl child in her being, her presence in the community is very important. I like to touch also on something that I wrote about recently on Facebook.
Before you touch on that, Mkulu,
yes.
I like what you just said right now, I love what you just said right now, and it just reminds me of something very, very important that other people actually sometimes ignore. The fact that not every woman needs to be married to hold a significant place. We look at Umkabayiga Jama, Umkabayiga Jama is one of is one of the very few women who actually served as a king's advisor for not just one king. She served as an advisor for her brother Osenza Nakon. She served as an advisor for Ushaga, and she also served as an advisor for Rutingan. And we also see her in some ways playing an important role even in Jama's own reign. It might not have been as significant as when she was serving during Senza Ngakona's reign, but she played a role, and for me, it's something very, very profound. And I don't know how true this is, but legend says that she was never, ever, ever married, and she was one of the most key people in the Zulu dynasty.
Yes, just to complement what you just said, Gogo, Umkabayiga Jama, people, the universe today knows Ushaga as this big icon, the enigma, Ushaga. Ushaga, if you read deeper in the Zulu cultures and history, Ushaga is the making of Umkabayiga Jama. And people, we live in a patriarchal world, and Menzi earlier said that there's nothing wrong with patriarchy. There is an element of toxic patriarchy, and that needs to be dealt with accordingly. Umkabayiga Jama is the figure, the big shadow behind Ushaka, and our chieftaincy as well. We are a chieftaincy out of a Rahadi. This is a big sister out of a one of the daughter of a king. The lineage comes from a Rahadi. So don't ever think a woman needs to be married to hold significance in society. No. But in closing on the very same aspect, there is a big significance that a king or a chief cannot ascend to the throne without a queen. We are essentially admitting that Ubukhosi itself is centered or anchored to Ndlunkulu, which is central to Indlovukazi. So we are nothing without the queens. We need to give the power back, Bafetu. Part of the problems we have in our societies, in our houses, in our chieftaincies, it is because the power has been removed from its rightful hosts, being the women, the queens, and all of those feminine figures in the structures. That is my truth.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, noted. I see you, Zamalek. We will give you a chance to speak now. Nkosi?
No. Please give Brother Zamalek a chance to speak.
Okay. Before Zamalek speaks, let me just respond to something here. Uguti, we are now moving into the phase in our last 15 minutes that we have now. We are moving into the phase now where we're gonna we are already introducing the issue of the throne. Uguti throne Auset. What does it mean for her to have a throne as a crown? The crown yakhe is actually isihlalo. I would give Zamalek a chance to speak right now, but I want to quote what I wrote here because I got it from a very interesting source. I've been for the past few days talking about the importance of women, but also the importance of these rituals, the rituals of marriage, and the importance of omalume. You know, I even wrote, I think I did a live just speaking about the amaculo, amahubo, ebeswahuba kwaZulu specifically, which have a lot to do with centering the woman as the life giver. Yes, others may be teasing and naughty and whatever, this some of the lamahubo, especially emshado. But mawalalela, they show you how important, how much of a pillar a woman is, how important also is the lineage of your uncles, your mother's brothers in your life, whenever you are establishing your family, how important it is even emsamu to acknowledge your matrilineal line. Most people think you're kuluma no baba, no baba. No, kulum no baba. It is important to call out your lineage of your mother's line there, for many deep-seated reasons that we've already mentioned here. I'll read this and then I'll allow Zamalek, I'll let Zamalek to speak. I wrote this on Facebook for those who may not have seen it. I said, "Shonipa go malume ekabo nyoko," nyoko being a word, strong old Zulu word for mother. A deeper Afrocentric perspective on brother, sister, lover, mother, uncle, father, mother relationship, prefigured in Kerma in Sudan, Nabata, Kemet, Tameri, Tanehisi, and through various other African traditions. This is one from the Dogon. So I was reading about the Dogon yesterday, the various tribes of the Dogon. I was looking at how they form their societies, how they do agriculture, how they do marriage rituals, how they keep their history. But this one was specifically about issues of marriage. So Tiwananage, the wife indeed should be chosen preferably from among the daughters of the maternal uncle. And this is frequently done. Symbolically, the girl is regarded as a substitute for her husband's own mother. That part. Clearly, there is a correspondence here between the maternal uncle's daughter, his wife, and his sister, who is the mother of the nephew. The marriage is thus, in some sense, a reenactment of the mythical incest. When they say mythical incest, I thought about Demane, not Demazan. but I also looked at the Auset, Osar. We always described as brother and sister. They were the children of Ra or children of Geb, or whichever form you want to take. But they are brother and sister, but at the same time they become lovers. At the same time they become these great ancestors. The marriage is thus, in a sense, a reenactment of the mythical incest. It is, but the incest they're referring to in the Dogon, they're referring to Nomo and Ama. No, it's Nomo and Ama, or Nomo and Yurugu. I forgot the exact names, but there is a couple of four individuals who are also brothers and sisters, but they are the ones that create the rest of mankind, and they create the rest of the tribes, according to the Dogon. It is also, however, regarded as a caricature, and is thus a kind of defiance held at Yurugu. So Yurugu is the imperfect one who was created first, but was not complete. And some scholars refer to Yurugu as Abelungu, Abangaphelele. For the existing order represents the reorganization. The existing order represents the reorganization under the direction of Nomo of an original situation characterized by the disorderliness of his enemy. So they are here speaking about order, how to restore order in society by making sure that when you marry someone from a particular maternal line, not your sister per se, but your maternal cousins and things like that. And lastly, another consequence of the situation just described is that in theory, brothers should always marry their sisters, but they explain deeper. They're not talking about your blood, your sister direct. Any member of one generation, therefore, regards all members of the previous generation as his fathers and his mothers. So this is from the book called The Dogon. In African Wells, the book is called African Wells. Can I maybe just allow, can you take questions from Facebook, and then we'll let Zamalek to speak, because I'm sure he will have to say something more lengthier. Can we take those comments from Facebook, and then we take Mkulu?
No. Please proceed with Umkulu Zamalek, and then I also have a comment, and then because this one it's something that we spoke about a bit earlier. It's not the current topic at hand.
Okay, cool. I think we've touched on the throne and on the throne head. But please, Zamalek, you can unmute and speak, Papa.
Oh, I wanted to touch on Ikhambi. Ikhambi, why he had a boyfriend, husbandry. In English, they call it like that, husbandry, that had no authority within the royal council. So in that manner, those husbandry, they're not recognized. And that's why history will never talk about them. And this is applied. This is applied. This is applied in the Mujahideen, when a lot of husbandry who will just be their men, a lot of men, as if she's a polygamist or polyandry, as people assume. But she's not doing that. It is based on different aspects of trying to raise the family. And again, you get that in the Bagedi society and the Nuka, the Pedi society of the incest that you talk about, that you get from the Dogon, the Nomo, and Nomoagua sleeping with Ogo. So it's the same saga that repeats itself in a community of Africa. And that is why we get that Heru as fall in love with Heteru. And Heteru was his uncle's wife, is his uncle's wife. So, and all that, it does teach you that in an aspect of a view of a different person, that will be incest, that will be adultery, but it teaches a different system of order that has much to deal with the rituals that we do in our community. And when we take our uncle, like I take my uncle and go pay what we call a negotiation, ilobolo, or took it into traditional aspect, all that aspect is done by the uncle side, abomama, your feminine, your maternity side, where you were born from. So it's done in that way because of that remindancy that you must choose from your uncle's side. It's a symbiology in such a way that it's same as in Zimbabwe and the Zulu. They have this tradition that is called Mulambo. This tradition Mulambo, it's some other relative with other relative, and they go and pick amongst their matriarchal relatives. As a man, you go and pick a female, and you have whatever sensuality. That tradition was outcast by most of these Portuguese. When they reach in Zimbabwe, in Madubai land, they saw that as indecent tradition. But you can get this tradition all around in Africa. That west part, you get them inside the royalties, because the royalties, they need to continue maintain such a tradition. And when we talk about a woman being important, we are not talking only on a woman not marrying and being a celibacy and being a chauvinist like Queen Elizabeth. No, we are not talking on that. We're talking about someone with the whole entire environment. Yes, Queen Elizabeth takes her part under the dominance of violence. But this person that we are talking about a person who takes care through magical means. One of the example I liked is that 350 example. It was quite brilliant and accurate about the magic use of femininity, that divine power we are talking about. But now, even when you talk about saying that we need to identify it as us as men, I said it, that Mkulu taught all of us, unless people don't listen much, Mkulu taught us that we need to open a side to our feminine view. Because even us as men, we possess masculinity and femininity within our spirit, within our brain. But we will our identity through masculinity. So how do we channel such femininity? Such femininity is channeled with rituals of initiation. There's ways we teach how to channel such of your femininity, because it's a system that is passed through generation to generation. Example, that is why we have, as men, I will just give you a glimpse. Us going to the mountain during winter, it's because there's a secret behind that is passed through generation to generation, and it can be told through these sagas that are written in the walls. So everything that of the divine mother, it has much to deal with the womanhood from her birth until her dying. And even as we do have her quality, the energy she carries. It's just we don't have a lot of time talking about how in the old time a woman was so great. In the Zad, they talk about pentagenetics, and the pentagenetic or pentagenealogy is where a woman can give birth by their own self without no man. Next time we'll talk about that. That is genetical security, and we need to look on that. That is why we're talking about ISIS and the order of ISIS. Indlela zabona umkhubulwane, umdlolozi wabo sohlangene. Anyway, ndosheni.
No, thank you for that. Thank you for that. I think today we really went deep on Auset, and we really brought it home. And Sukoko, Nkosi usually says, we brought it down to the basics, according to Isn't. But I am also aware, this is why I like Mzamele and Mukhaile's contribution, but I really feel like we need to get more insight of, because I think Ikhambi, both between the two of us, and even the former members that we were with, we are all Nguni language speakers. We speak isiZulu, isiSwati, and some isiXhosa. But I'm really keen to understand these very same aspects of the divine feminine from the Basotho, the Botswana, the various peoples of Southern Africa. I know that there are similarities, but I would like to know a little bit on the specifics of ukuthi abantu who speak different dialects of the Bantu, so-called Bantu languages, bona bathini about the divine feminine. And also, I really also need to know more from people who are initiated, especially in the I don't want to say normal, but in the ubungoma. What is Nomkhubulwane? Why is Nomkhubulwane so important? Why is the river so important? Why is rain so important? And also, when it comes to issues of rain, I find us a bit neglectful. I'm not sure if it's Zangoma who are neglecting this information, this practice. We don't seem to be saving rain a lot. You know, there's a lot of rain, we talk about flooding, but then a few months from now, or even a few months from now, a few days from now, people will be complaining about drought, right? We're complaining about drought, but we have just had an abundance of rain. How did our ancestors store rain for a day where there's no water? We are getting into winter. We may not have a lot of water. Some countries, some parts of the provinces are having no water. Yet we've just now been speaking glowingly about water, about the water goddesses and all that. But the thirst is real. Last week, I had to send tens of liters of water to families in KZN, you know, including my own family, who were saying there's no water in the tap, you know. So yet at the same time, there's water from the heavens. Is that water, is rainwater bad for drinking? Is rainwater bad for bathing? Do we have no idea how to collect water? What has happened to us that we do not know how to collect water? You know, we can talk about seeds on another season. We can talk about why are we not collecting seeds in a space of GMOs that are all around us, taking over real food. In a few years' time, we will not have organic food. There are laws being passed around where we cannot share organic food unless it goes via organic seeds, so to speak, unless it goes via some GMO type of organization. So these are the practical things that I would like us to really touch about. For example, I draw water each time it rains. I may not save a whole lot, but I always draw water when it rains, and I use it throughout the week. I use it for Msamoami, I use it for various rituals. That water, I use it throughout the week until it is finished. And I don't throw it down the sink. I put it back in the soil. You know, I put it into my herb garden and things like that, small little patch that I have, you know. So I'm just saying at the end of the day, there are certain basic things that we can do, but somehow we don't seem to do. There are things that we can do as individuals, but there's also things that we can do as communities so that we can take the gifts of Nomkhubulwane as gifts and use them rather than complain. I'm not saying people shouldn't complain. A lot of people did lose their lives. Some people lost their jobs. Some lost their work facilities, their livelihood. You know, we should definitely be reaching out to those people. But for us who are not affected as much, how are we using water? The water is also disappearing fast from a lot of aquifers. Borehole water is disappearing, you know. So somehow, some way, I feel like we, as a conscious community, there's a lot of theory going on, but when it comes to practically taking these things that we are gifted with from nature and using them and storing them, we need to step up more. Nkosi.
Thank you, Nkulu. So before I touch on what you just asked, some of the questions that you just asked, I just wanted to just add my 2 bits in terms of the importance of umalum. You know, I was actually having this discussion with my mother in the morning that, you know, sometimes as a people we forget certain things. So would say how certain things are done we seem to, you know. I have my son, Ukamkhelo, and my daughter now. And both these children are birthed ekhaya, you know, out of wedlock, you know. And in my mind, there's a practice now, a strange practice. I say strange, and I'll tell you why I say strange. I don't know about other cultures. Ingane ebelethelwe ekhaya, ingane yomalume, you know. The father has no claim to that child unless they do certain rituals. And prior to them doing those rituals, they have no claim whatsoever. And in modern times, we've seen a lot of people that when they reach a certain age or their so-called adulthood, although the question of adulthood can be questioned, as I see a lot of adult children walking amongst us. So when they would go out and say, and then when they finally find ubababo, they suddenly change. Uzomuzo umuntu is suddenly no longer edlamini. What have the Masegos done for you? You know, what have the Masegos done for you? And then, and then you wonder when things start going south for you. Why are things not going my way? And sometimes that's why we speak about ethical healing as well. Sometimes I blame some of the advices that they get from some practitioners, you know, not all of them, of course. Hence I use the word some of the practitioners, they say, no, kukhalaga khabo baba and whatnot. Khalaga kanjani khabo baba? Our baba bako have not first acknowledged you as one of their own, as a seed, you know. And I'm not saying that you should ignore them entirely, but there's certain things that you cannot partake in simply because certain rituals have not been done. And until such, you are ingane yogo malum. And this, I'm also reminded of that song, Eti Gilegelele malume, oh malume, gilegele. You know that song? It reminds me of the fact that when all else fails you, even when your parents are married, when all else fails you, you go to your uncle. He is the one who is supposed to help you, because your mother's lineage will never forsake you. They knew you while you were still in your mother's womb, and they protected you while your ancestors from your mother's side, and they protected you while you were still in your mother's womb. And so therefore, they play a very crucial and important role in that aspect. And so for me, even when somebody says, like, as in, like, I always tell them, my children are Dlaminis until further notice. They are Dlaminis. I'd be so upset if any of them, they come and they tell me about Tibong and Hazaz, which is Pumad, of people that
may I ask? Even the it's the same.
Intlawulo doesn't mean anything. I'm cool. When we, in all honesty, people have this conception, no, ngizopatala intlawulo and all else will be fixed. No. Intlawulo it merely indicates that we acknowledge, yes, we acknowledge ukuthi kunengane yakeni ithambo lethu elihlala kwaDlamini, and then we acknowledge ukuthi ingane yethu ijumpile yayongena esibayeni sakwaDlamini. That's it. Just merely means that there's other rituals there's other rituals that actually need to be performed for that child to be moved away from isibaya sakeboga mamagbo and to go to isibaya sakuboga babak. And that's why it's very problematic when people think ukuthi inhlawulo suddenly means ukuthi your child suddenly asengangaphatha kwamaseko. No, it can't be. You know, there's lots more. There's a series of other rituals that need to be performed, you know, before you can even say, hi, umuntu wakamaseko, yeah, umuntu wakamaseko ngegama, you know. But in essence, when you still belong to the Dlaminis, and until further notice, until they do the right thing ancestrally, you have nothing to do with the Masegos. So that's what's about.
And the other aspect?
So I don't know. I think before I
no, that's so true. I wanted to agree with you and just to in a glimpse of a reminder. which the last time we talked that we need to make them these things relate. And then when we talk about inhlawulo, we talk about a person who have done wrong. Angeke sizohlawula if you have been done wrong, which means you have done wrong by intimacy and not respecting that intimacy traditional aspect being recognized with ancestors and stuff. That is why sithi umuntu uyahlawula. And then when we make a child ukuthi angene amukelwe kubo ukwamukeliswa, there's that ritual ukuthi we make a child to be accepted by these other ancestors since he was not raised by that or she was not raised by that. And again, a child doesn't belong to their father. This is a patriarchal system that we are administrated on. A child always belongs to their mother even when they die.
Wow, powerful, powerful. Your second point, Nkosi?
The second point was in relations to the water aspect. So for me, in terms of the water aspect, you know, as why healers would use water as part of the as rituals of as part of the process of the initiation is water in its essence is the, for lack of a better word, I would say is the elixir of life. Birth comes through water. And Unkulu Zamalek explained this in the previous session. For those who may have missed it, I will upload the videos for everybody to listen to. Water is an element that is required for life to come through. And for you to become a healer, you have to be reborn, like it's almost like a rebirth process where you shed the old you and become something much greater than what you currently are, you know, and that is able to heal and be the one that actually becomes the link towards those who have passed on and the living, you know, and time becomes irrelevant. And for me, it would make sense why water would be part of the initiation process, because we are birthing, we are in the process of birthing new life. We see it even when we give birth to ingane. A child sits in a bubble filled with water for 9 months, you know, before they actually come into the world. And it wouldn't it wouldn't make sense if water wasn't part of the initiation process. Now magama but yeah. Water is yes, water is that important element that that is required for a new life to come through. Yes. And even with plants as well. And we see that with plants as well, where water is required for growth of a new plant. When we take a seed and we plant it on the earth, and then for it to grow and become a plant, we need water. We need that final element, which is water.
Okay, well, indeed, Kunjal. Can you touch a bit, I don't know if you're able to read the contribution of Mbete to Majodina to
oh yes, I was going to read it now. So
I would like you to read that, but please read it after this, because this is related, because we're talking about water. I want us to talk about wind, and then we need to close. Water and wind working together. Again, I told you earlier, I was reading from something called Why Does Isis Have Wings? There's a whole lot of things, but let me just read this and then after this. Okay. Furthermore, the Egyptian word for to fold the wings, seken, also means to embrace. An Egyptian mourning posture mimicked the protective embrace of Osiris by Isis. And surely it was Isis's protection, enfolding winged arms that Egyptian mother had in mind, that the Egyptian mother had in mind when she recited this protective charm for her child. Remember, we say things to our children when they are born. We recite certain incantations, we strengthen them and we protect them with our words. Some say they are prayers, but incantations, whatever word you like to use. Listen to this. So this is the charm that the ancient mothers you'd say. My arms are over this child. The arms of Auset or Isis are over him, as she put her arms over her son Horus. I put my arms over you. Just one second. As she put her arms over her son Heru, I put my arms over you. Nevertheless, the wings of Isis could also be aggressive. I think we have all touched on that. The wings could also be aggressive. One text tells us that Isis struck with her wing and closed the mouth of a river that was raging. The open wings of Isis can also be related to a posture seen in images of the ancient Egyptian bird goddess. This is the posture of the famous Neolithic statuette of a so-called dancing woman with her arms raised in an open curve above her head, and which has become a popular amulet among modern goddess worshippers from different traditions. The same posture can be seen in the goddess figures that ride in the curved boats that were a favorite theme in the pre-dynastic times. According to the Egyptologist Louis Breasted, the posture is typical of Egypt, but can also be found throughout Africa. And although these ancient figures do not have obvious wings, their unwinged but upraised arms foreshadow the winged, upraised arms of goddesses seen later in Egyptian art. These big-faced figures are often identified as bird goddesses and aspects of the divine feminine. Please read that, Coco.
So Mkhulu give to Majodina his two comments. The first comment is Thokozani Nina Betongo. Ketla, just to add on the point of the feather, remembering that the nature are principles or attributes of source of nature. The wings, the wings are the expanse or etheric presence or navigation. Those who will be given to traverse such ether are bestowed with a level of mastership, ubukosi. The wings or feather as a symbol of this level of wait, just give me a second. As a symbol of this level of mastership, as we have seen in royalty, those chosen of the gods, a symbol of enlightenment, as Auset being the medium of spiritual activity, in brackets magic. We see the wings represented in this activity of etheric dominance. Lord of the ether, no royalty was placed on the throne without a grasp of this etheric substance. The Ngoma is a traverse of this ether substance. The Sibalikulus are the enlightened ones in essence. For me, yes, it's lava when I'm cool. What does that mean?
Right. It's clear that we're going to close the session at 12. So let's do that by continuing maybe with the rest of the comments.
So there's a second comment by Mkhulu Majodina. He says, Ebungomeni, in keeping to the metaphysical script, we initiate through all the elemental forces. Emanzini is always represented as the Ugogo, a feminine representation. We knew that earth is isihlabati, is masculine, and water feminine. One intoned in these aspects was to balance the manifested God form. Magnetic properties or water speaks to the magnetic nature of the feminine, the potentiality that exists in what is represented as the feminine goddess. Feminine/goddess is the medium on which many things have been brought into existence. Portal to / from ether. You know, it's very profound what he says, that they use different elements, because an initiate wears, this is something that people always overlook. An initiate also, itwasana, will wear a clay, that is earth, you know, it's a representation of earth. And at the end of their initiation process, we see that the earth was this, the clay is then washed off, you know, and whenever you divine, the first element that you actually, one of the elements that you use is that you first ulayita umlilo, ushise impupho, ulayite ikhandlela. That is the element of fire and wind combining together to create this, the incense or the medium through which you speak to your ancestors through. So it's quite profound. That he actually highlights this as a very important, like earth, fire, wind, and water are very, very important in the initiation process. And it makes sense, it makes sense for me anyway.
Thanks for that. It's an echo, Coco, to the very same thing that we were saying earlier. As much as the elements are different, I think some of our members were talking about issues of ice. Ice can be solid, and water is solid, water is vapor, water is in many different forms, right? But also umuntu is made up of all these different elements also. So the knowledge that we are sharing here really is a return to nature. It's a return to a state of being where we are in harmony with the air, the water, the fire, and the ether. Maybe the ether is something that we could speak about a little bit later on another day. For some people, what would you describe ether as? Is it space? Is it a spiritual realm of some sort? What is ether? I know Abanya, they know it from the Nas song when he was battling Jay-Z. He had a song called The Ether. Wait till you feel the ether. What is this ether? But maybe it's a question for another day, unless someone has the answer right now.
Nkulu, mine is not to say much, but to remind each other that that's a imfihlo. Now we are born imfihlo, amen. That is why the priest, they became the amen priest, and then they swear their oath under Auset, and then they had abilities of Dawood. So in this case, it means it was a secret. But now, to just give a glimpse of the secret, to show you that to be initiated, I will always laugh. That's why ether, it's something that has to deal with the electromagnetic body around you. It has nothing to deal with the with the wings. The wings symbolize something else. These wings, they symbolize, in this case, of Auset, like when we go to Auset. They symbolize this influence that Baba Credo Muta talks about. I did even allude to that. When the Sangoma dances, he must reach not the ether, not the electromagnetic, but the astral world. And then the bridge to the astral world, to this world of the Itonga, where Auset had power to raise King Osar and make him a king of the Rastu there. So in that case, when Amautenza Sangoma, Ukiya, you are summoning that feminine energy within you that gives you a passage. So a king who has already had access, not enlightened, meaning had access, he will need to have Isiba. And then Lelo Siba Lelo, it symbolized that you already have access of the communication. And then when you put it in simple, the satellite, when you have a satellite, it needs to have a disk. That's why you see, but it's a pattern bone click of the bird that is connected to its form when it's flying in the sky, not only symbolizing etheric, but symbolizing the world beyond. Because flying up there, it's beyond. It's like going in the golden city where Ra Omvelinganga reside with Nomkubulwan and the rest of the Neter. So if you have Isiba, kukhulunywa ngesiba, Nkosi begwe isiba, kusuke kukhulunywa ngokuthi laba abantu bomoya. And if you can look into people who carry such a surname, they will tell you ukuthi bona abantu bomoya ngokuthi magic happens to them. Like they know that, I mean, yabona magic kuyayenzakala. Everybody who's from a person who ogqoke isiba, their bloodline has a particular magic because you have already triggered the DNA. That's a symbol.
And then the wings being where when we imitate these gods as shaman. I'm an initiated shaman. With you have come to my house, and let's not fake it. I have a mask. I have a mask. I have a garments that you wear, that you are talking about, the wing garments to have wings that were worn in Egypt. I'm initiated in Egypt practically. So in this case, these wings, they don't symbolize a flying or anything. They symbolize an intellectual technology that has been passed through the spirit. When someone, they've already now been having access to communicate with the dead, with the king of the underworld called Osara, and having access of communicating with the dead, then they already have access to communicating with what is beyond, also known as Indlondlo in the down southern world, also known as Amanomo in the upper world of the northern world. So, and these talks, when we talk about that, that is why we call them Neter. When we talk about them, giving them all these symbols, they had no Winka magic. I know most of us will like to use Winka magic so that we involve nature. We're saying we're involving nature. But when you study us, like in Abantu, me, when I was initiated in the Nguni system, they never had 4 elements. They never talked about 4 elements. And in Zulu, when they talk about all these elements, it's so weird to even translate them into English, because some of the English words don't recognize these words. They're not familiar with them. They're not familiar with the spiritual realms. So the Nguni, the Sotho, they have these words. You can relate. That is why I normally say all these traditions, because when you hear the word and they explain it, it has the same similarity and content. When we talk about that, we're trying to bring the understanding, the clarity of the wings, that the wings have some particular aspect of a technology that you unleash, as we have already spoke about Auset being a great feminine divine power. So to tap into that magic, to tap into that particular magic or science, if we can put it into practicality, to have a object that can do miracles for you, a TV or whatever it may be. But in that case, it needs to have a system, and that system, wings are part of that system, not elements like the winkers. The winker system, when they talk about 4 elements, it's them. That is why we know about that, because we were colonized. Europeans who study Egyptology, they assume Egyptology uses 4 elements and understanding, same as the Bantu, whereas we use different elements that some are not even identified. Exactly as Baba Credo Muta will say, we have 24 planets in our own solar system, whereas now we only know about 10. That one is already new discovered. So these are things we need to look into rather than to jump into the bandwagon of West.
No, give thanks. I think Usamaleki mentions things that are very, very important here, especially about, I think I started by speaking about epistemology and ontology, these things. Knowledge system yethu must not be derived from the West. We may be speaking this English because we are aiming to reach people who speak different languages who may not overstand us when we speak proper isiZulu, right? Now, Baba, he mentions things about Baba Muta speaking about Umkhulu Muta speaking about the 24 planets. You know, someone said 12 planets, some Europeans said 12 planets. Another elder spoke about 28 chakras. People talk about 7 chakra points. You know, even the word chakra it does not use, but it talks about energy points within your body, which are 28. You know, so it goes really deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's important for us to return to our nature, to return to the knowledge. Auset, you're not talking about something foreign. When you say Osa, you say Hiru, when you say Amen, it's not very different from saying Tatlamochol. It's not very different from saying Sodume. It's not very different from saying Umvelingan. We know that they are equivalents to, we are basically the same people Umkhulu Zamalek speaks a lot about how the Tonga language is very similar, or it's the same language as the Medu Neter, what is called Egyptian. So I do not want to say too much now. It is 12. We've reached a very critical hour, so we must wrap up and seal up. Maybe last words from Nkosi. Any last words?
Firstly, I would like to thank everybody that held space with us today. Everybody that held space with us today, and just say thank you so much for joining today's session. We are looking into reconfiguring the frequency of our sessions. As Umkhulu has highlighted, we are currently having issues with the calendar and how it's designed, and we're trying to bring it back into us being talking about things within the correct season. So for Umkhulu, we'll engage further through Facebook and Instagram in terms of how we're going to reconfigure our calendar to bring us back into alignment with what is actually happening in nature. With that being said, please follow us on all our social media pages. Ikhambi Natural Healing on Facebook, Instagram, as well as on YouTube. Please do click the like button on YouTube, on our YouTube when you watch our videos. Subscribe. Share. Subscribe and share. Let them, you know what, I always say that it's the conversations that we have, we're not designed for us to sit amongst ourselves as healers and just say, oh, let's have this conversation, because it's like you're preaching to the choir. Hence, I always say, share, subscribe, because the information is needed by those who actually probably are not within the circle. Those are the people that actually need the information more than us, and because they probably find themselves in a situation where they want to know more, but they don't know where to start. And these sessions are merely designed just to aid people and provide some form of guidance or a starting point in terms of how you find yourself as an African child. So with that being said, Tamagwini, I will post the next when the next session will be, and Umkhulu will share. For those who are on Twitter, I will create a Twitter page, because we are looking into actually going into Twitter Spaces, because I think it's quite cool, you know, when you go into Twitter Spaces, it's quite cool. For those, yes. So just to make the platform more accessible to people. Especially those who don't have Zoom or have access to Zoom, go into looking into having other sessions. Not to say that these sessions will stop; these ones will still continue, but then we will be hosting other sessions, Twitter sessions, to support these ones as well. Mkhulu? No, I think there were a few people. Mukhaila had his mic unmuted, so I don't know if he wanted to share something just before we closed. I'm not sure what was going on. Yeah,
we can close, Gogo. It's fine.
Okay, Mkhulu. Okay, Andiswa Tembani. Mkhulu, do you have Andiswa's numbers? Because
the question.
She had a question about, can you please explain to me what it means when you dream of flying? Usually we do.
I would rather we connect with the person directly, because
yes,
time has lapsed.
Yes,
the time
yes,
we
yes.
are 30 minutes beyond our time. So
yes.
I would rather we can send you information directly. Maybe on WhatsApp, you can drop us your WhatsApp, and then we can send you the question directly. I mean the answer, or you can look on our Ikhambi Facebook page. I will post something there, some thoughts. It'll be a perspective. I've been known to be a dream interpreter for many, many years, since I was very young. But I always tell people that it is not myself who's doing the interpretation. Again, I guess it's that word, the ether. I always meditate about a question or a challenge that someone may have, and then I passion about it, and then I come back to you. Some information may be from, I may be directed to something which already written by somewhere. I may be directed to something which is just direct, because not all flying dreams are the same. So I cannot just give you an information now and say, you are flying, this is exactly what it means. No, there are different archetypes, there are different levels of knowing, and and then I will return to you with an answer for that, or with a clue, because a lot of the times here with Ikhambi, we are saying, do you? You can do your own interpretation of certain things that come to you. Let me just write down the number, and then we are closing. Siyabonga kakhulu to everyone.
I've already written it down.
You've written the number. Okay, thank you. Stay safe.
Give me a second.
Oh, you've written it?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm busy by listening.
Yes, you can continue, Valerie Singh. I've already written the number down.
I sing Valelisile nibe nosuku oluhle nonke ashe amakwini.
Tamaku, thank you. Tamaku to everyone who also joined us on Facebook as well. Really appreciate your engagement.
Peace and love.